I think a lot of people would probably go with a blue-white simulacrum. Oh my god, I can't say this word. Recently, I've been playing a lot more Magic instead of Overwatch, and that's largely due to the introduction of achievements. I like to think I've done a pretty good job of collecting them, and today, for a bit of something different, I'm gonna walk you through how I got one of them. If this is something y'all like, I got a bunch more I can show you. Looking at the color masteries, a lot of them can be gotten by just playing enough games, but some of them are a little bit more complicated, and one of them that we're going to be looking at today is the Ooh Shiny achievement. This requires controlling 12 or more artifacts or enchantments at the beginning of your end step. That means on the board, under your control. Thankfully, it doesn't require winning the game, just getting them all out there. And just a note, the achievement doesn't show up as soon as you get it, only after you've finished that game. I think a lot of people would go with the Simulacrum Synthesizer deck, blue-white, but I only have one of them, and I'm not using 3 of my mythics on this. So I ended up coming up with a different deck that I think works. It took me a few tries to get a deck that worked, but this is what I came up with. The deck list will be in the description if that's something you guys are interested in. This is the deck that I used in order to get the Ooh Shiny achievement. It is based around the idea of using Skrelv's Hive to get as many mites out as possible, while using enchantments and artifacts to exile the enemy's creatures so that you don't take too much damage while you're making your mites. We also have other ways to just get a few more artifacts or enchantments out there. In that vein, we have this enchantment prevents some damage on you right away. This little guy can help block against other little guys. Same with Crystal Barricade. Surge of Salvation is the only thing in here that is not an enchantment or an artifact, and it's just to protect all of our little mites. I used a range of different ways to exile permanents so that we have access to all of these different benefits. For example, Seal from Existent Trapped in the Screen give ward, Makeshift Binding gives you life, and Stasis Snare has flash. In our lands, we have the Mirrex to get more mites if you have mana but nothing to do with it, and Valgavoth's Lair is just, it's an enchantment, it counts towards your enchantments. I don't think that you necessarily have to have this deck in particular. You can probably trade a lot of these cards out for other similar things in order to get the same effect. For example, you could trade out Unidentified Hovership for Annex Sentry or vice versa, Stasis Snare for Cooped Up, whatever. But the goal here is to just take as many of their creatures out of the way while you build up a little army of mites. I did lose a few on the way to getting the achievement, and also had a few of my opponents concede before I was able to get enough enchantments on the board. But after I settled on a deck, it only took 3 or 4 games for me to get a winning game, and that is this one. I start off with a really good hand, 2 Hives, which is a definite snap keep for me here. Then I rip a Lair off the top, so I go ahead and play that one first because it comes into play tapped. My opponent doesn't play anything but a blue land, which makes me pretty nervous that they have no more lies, but I go ahead and play a Skrelv's Hive anyway because I just drew a new one. And I figure 2 is probably enough, but they don't actually have it. I just get super lucky here. They didn't read the card instructions on Darkra's Reliquary and doesn't know that it only targets creatures, so I'm able to keep my Hive as well as getting rid of his token. I also know now that he's probably doing a very similar strategy of playing lots of artifacts. That's confirmed when he drops this guy, whose damage is based on how many artifacts you have. So I go ahead and get rid of that guy because he can get a bit out of hand quickly. And go ahead and attack with one of my mites so I can up his number of poison counters, because my mites get lifelink at a certain point if he has 3 or more poison counters. This can help me survive longer, plus the mites can't block anyway, so they're not useful in that regard. Rat goes ahead and uses his turn to turn his reliquary into a guy. I draw land, which means I am able to pay the ward cost on the reliquary and put Cooped Up on him so he is not able to attack or defend, and the ability trigger on his enchantment here also doesn't go off because it has not actually left the battlefield. On his turn, he makes a little guy and then leaves up a blue and a white mana once again. I actually have the achievement already when these hives resolve, but I'm a little bit nervous because the achievement didn't show up, and I'm worried that I misremembered the number of artifacts or enchantments, so I go ahead and just try and keep maxing the number of guys I have on the board for a little while here. Just gonna kind of speed through the rest of the game here because I have already reached the number that I need to. And again, like I said before, it takes a second. It doesn't show up right when you get it, and it doesn't show up until after the game has finished, and for a little while afterwards it didn't show up, and I was worried it hadn't gotten it. But on the loading screen, we got it. There it is. So hopefully this was useful to somebody, or if not, maybe it was just an interesting look into the way somebody else plays the game. And with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful time. Go ahead and give a like and subscribe if this is something that you'd like to see more of. And we'll be back with more of something random next week, hopefully. I kind of went through a lot the past couple weeks, so we haven't been around, but you know, we're trying, okay, right, see ya, bye! Guess who recorded the whole thing for nobody?